Okay, imagine the ancient equivalent of a rogue investigative journalist. Someone globe-trotting across the known world just to figure out exactly what makes different cultures tick. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the work of Herodotus. We're going to unpack his ancient field notes, specifically an account of Egypt. It's this absolutely fascinating text that is basically the world's very first piece of travel journalism, and we'll see exactly how this 5th century BCE traveler literally birthed historical inquiry. So, how did the ancient Greeks actually view ancient Egypt? Let's dive right into this. To really appreciate what Herodotus was doing, you've got to remember that to the ancient Greeks, Egypt was already unfathomably ancient. I mean, the Great Pyramids were already 2,000 years old when Herodotus first laid eyes on them. Think about that. Imagine traveling in the ancient world. No internet, no modern guidebooks, no translation apps, and you encounter a culture so vastly unique and unbelievably old. How do you even begin to process, let alone accurately record, a world that feels completely alien to your own? Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the father of history, then look at the gift of the Nile, go inside ancient Egyptian society, explore storytelling and historical inquiry, and finally cover why Herodotus still matters. All right, part 1, the father of history. Let's officially meet Herodotus. Herodotus was a 5th century BCE Greek historian from Halicarnassus, but honestly, calling him just a historian feels way too stuffy for what he actually did. He was basically an ancient travel journalist, making incredibly grueling, dangerous journeys. When he visited Egypt, he became completely obsessed with its colossal monuments, its intricate customs, and its rulers. He wasn't just sitting in a library somewhere. He was out there in the field, acting like a one-man walking encyclopedia. He interviewed local priests, he measured monuments, he collected data. And what made his approach an absolute game changer was how he took his own direct, on-the-ground observations and blended them with the local legends people shared with him along the way. Moving on to part 2, Gift of the Nile, the true lifeblood of Egypt. Egypt is the gift of the Nile. You know, this is probably one of the most famous descriptions of the ancient kingdom ever recorded, and it really hits the nail on the head. Herodotus wasn't just casually looking at the water here. He was recognizing a profound, fundamental geographic truth that shaped an entire empire. He realized firsthand that without the rhythmic flooding of this one specific river, this incredible, monumental civilization simply wouldn't exist, period. Picture miles and miles of scorching, unforgiving Sahara Desert. Just a harsh wasteland where survival is basically impossible. Now, bisect that desert with a single, miraculously fertile strip of green. That contrast is exactly what Herodotus was capturing. The Nile was the absolute foundation of their agriculture, depositing nutrient-rich silt every single year. It acted as a massive natural highway for trade, which in turn brought incredible economic stability. Ultimately, the Nile was the sole reason these communities survived. Herodotus beautifully captured how one single geographic feature could engineer an entire civilization's success. Let's get into part 3, Inside Ancient Egyptian Society, Daily Life and Customs. He was deeply interested in how Egyptian society differed from Greek culture, and his notes are just packed with these amazing, specific details. He didn't just stare at the giant pyramids, he meticulously recorded the quirky, day-to-day realities of the people. For instance, he took extensive notes on their burial customs and their totally fascinating practices of animal worship. Get this, he recorded that if a pet cat died in an Egyptian household, the family members would actually shave their eyebrows in mourning. No way, right? He detailed how they mummified sacred baboons and ibises. He documented the rigorous structures of their priesthoods, right down to the specific linen clothes they wore, their strict diets, and the everyday laws governing the common people. He wanted to understand the living, breathing organization of their daily life. Now, there's definitely a distinct tension throughout his work. On one hand, we've got highly accurate, verifiable observations about society and agriculture that modern archaeologists literally still rely on today. But on the other hand, we have the wild exaggerations and total misunderstandings that are just super common in ancient travel writing. Like, he was dead on about the mechanics of the Nile, sure, but he also earnestly reported tall tales about highly venomous winged serpents flying through the air to guard frankincense trees. He balanced his empirical reporting with this undeniable gullibility, passing along the kind of unbelievable legends you'd completely expect from a guy returning home to Greece from a distant, mysterious land. That brings us to part 4, Storytelling and Historical Inquiry. Let's look at his methodology. What we're looking at here is essentially the birth of historical inquiry. Before Herodotus, writers mostly just passively recorded myths or blamed everything on the whims of the gods, treating it all as absolute fact. But Herodotus, he completely changed the game by systematically investigating the past. He actively compared different accounts of the same event. To cross-check his sources, he talked to the high priests in Memphis and then deliberately traveled hundreds of miles down the river to Thebes just to see if their stories matched up. He questioned his sources. He looked for human motivations, the why behind the what, rather than just divine intervention. And his overarching goal was to preserve cultural knowledge before it faded away. By developing this rigorous, comparative method, he basically invented the study of history itself. When you pull all his work together, it really reads like an ancient prestige documentary series. You've got his genuine curiosity about foreign cultures, which drove him to record customs that otherwise would have been lost forever. You see his intense focus on religion and ritual, giving us stunningly detailed notes on sacred traditions. Then there's history and memory, which acts as the massive engine of the text. He's just so passionate about preserving the stories of rulers and past conflicts. And finally, the sheer wonder of ancient civilization, captured in his awe-inspiring descriptions of massive monuments. He wove together historical reporting, local stories, and his own commentary around these four major themes to make his writing both informative and just incredibly entertaining to read. Finally, part 5, why Herodotus still matters and his lasting legacy. His work isn't just some old, dusty book. It's a vital, foundational text. It provides invaluable historical insights into ancient Egypt, obviously, but it also showcases the very beginnings of the travel writing style. It offers these deeply valuable cross-cultural observations. And honestly, perhaps the most interesting part is that reading his work acts like a mirror. It reveals just as much about the ancient Greek perspective, their biases, their anxieties, what they considered alien or wondrous, as it does about the Egyptians themselves. By seeing how Herodotus viewed the other, we learn so much about the culture he came from. His ability to seamlessly blend history with legend gives us this rare window into the very dawn of historical scholarship. So I'll leave you with this. If Herodotus shaped our memory of ancient Egypt by blending history, legend, and memory, how will future generations write the history of our time? It's a pretty fascinating reminder of the fragility and the ultimate subjectivity of recorded history. Thanks so much for joining this explainer. Keep questioning the stories of our past, and we'll see you next time.